University of Texas at El Paso Centennial Lecture Q&A, NAFTA at almost 20 years growth perspectives. Dr. Blanco. Economic cost of environmental degradation after NAFTA is $36 billion a year, while economic growth is $9.4 billion a year. As of 2003, 45% of Mexicans currently live in poverty, so the benefits of growth are experienced only by an elite few. NAFTA has led to the displacement of 682,900 U.S. jobs, including 35,000 here in El Paso, Texas. NAFTA has contributed to rising income inequality, suppressed real wages, weakened workers' collective bargaining powers, abilities to unionize, and reduce fringe benefits. Who does NAFTA benefit? Dr. Blanco is well known for his role as Mexico's chief negotiator of NAFTA. In addition to NAFTA, he was responsible for the successful negotiation of the Mexico-European Union Free Trade Agreement and 7 free trade agreements with 10 Latin American countries and Israel. What does Dr. Blanco have to say to UTEP?
Welcome. You emphasize the importance of open borders, fluid crossing to improve commerce and create wealth, and I agree. A big impediment is the interdiction of illegal drugs. It's a bottleneck on our border. Do you have some thoughts and solutions?
As you may, well, you're a young man, but some in history at least recall that there was a prohibition of alcohol in the United States. And that at that time, there were 2 large fortunes created in Ciudad Juárez because they were producing bourbon and exporting to the United States. At the moment the prohibition was eliminated, those 2 corporations went bankrupt. So just extrapolate in the case, at least for marijuana, at the very least for marijuana. I think that we have to be civilized about it. The only way to take kids away from the hard drugs is at least to decriminalize marijuana, at least. So otherwise, the profits of this traffic are such that they corrupt authorities in Mexico. They fight to cross to El Paso, and then when they are in El Paso, there's no more fighting. God knows why. But they corrupt everywhere.
NAFTA clearly benefits the overall economy of Mexico, which is great. But I'm slightly concerned about to whom those benefits went to. Because, I think you will agree with me that the rich in Mexico were doing wonderful before NAFTA, and they are doing even better now. But what about those that are at the bottom, which are pretty much everywhere in Mexico? You can just pick over the border, and it's quite visible even from here, even from like this campus. So, did it, in the negotiations of NAFTA, were the poor in Mexico even considered in it? Did the Mexican government see what the effect was going to be for them and for the agricultural workers? And then what about for the middle class? Do you think that small businesses can benefit from NAFTA? Is it as easy for them as it is for businesses to export to the US? Or are they just facing even more problems because they don't have as much competitiveness as US businesses? And if this is so, don't you think that NAFTA is just helping to definitely increase Mexico's GDP, but then at the same time increase the share that the high class has of the GDP, which is obviously a problem because the government is supposed to look for the welfare of all of its citizens, me included, and I feel quite left out.
Very sophisticated question, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, as you may recall, the way I started my little presentation is the reason NAFTA was negotiated was to bring jobs to Mexico. Now, the only way to fight against poverty on a sustainable basis is to generate jobs for people. Okay? Now, so that was the objective, and in that sense, my estimates are that, as I said, about 2 million families have jobs that are related to NAFTA. As you very well said, Wages are not as high as everybody would like to, but at least they have a job. There are people with not very good technical education, people that have one job or two jobs in a family, which is much better than they had before. Much, much better. So I agree with you that we are far from where we want to be. But NAFTA as a single instrument in generating the demand for Mexican workers has been very successful. It is true that there are disparities, but if you look at the poverty indexes in Mexico, people play around a lot with them. But the fact is that for the first time in Mexico, there's a middle class being built, in part because of the fact that families are having 2 kids in general. The fact that they have now the number of people that work in Mexico vis-a-vis the people that do not work finally is improving. And that makes for families that have access to more income. And on the other side of NAFTA, one of the great things about NAFTA is not only that you export, but that you import. And the opening that has come from NAFTA has meant that the prices of the goods that are consumed by poor people have also decreased with the opening. So all of that said, there is a lot to be done still to improve the well-being of poor Mexicans, those that you see just across in Juarez. But the point is that NAFTA has been useful in helping that fight. We need to improve education. As I said, that's something that hopefully there will be a major decision done at the beginning of the next administration. At least I'm hoping for that. The demographics are on our side, so that in the future you will see Mexican wages increase.
Thank you. And just to clarify, you are saying that NAFTA created more jobs than it stopped. Is that right?
Oh yes, yes. You know, one thing is negotiating a free trade agreement with the United States, and other things negotiating a free trade agreement with China. With the United States, the opening of the borders, I had the responsibility after NAFTA entered into force in '94, and at the end of '94, I became Secretary of Trade, Minister of Trade and Industry. And I want to tell you that there was no major outcry of companies in Mexico that felt, small companies, that felt that the opening of the border of goods coming from the United States into Mexico was killing small Mexican companies. And the reason is very clear. The difference in wages between Mexico and the United States is such that the products produced by small companies in Mexico did not compete and do not compete with the products manufactured in the United States. I will repeat to you that Mexico has not lost jobs in the agricultural sector because of NAFTA. You know, we are very successful exporters of fruits and vegetables. Many of the products which Mexicans cannot export to the United States, now because of NAFTA, the barriers have been eliminated. On the other side, as I said, Mexico, simply given its conditions, weather conditions, we don't have the rain and we don't have the snow, we simply cannot produce enough grains to feed humans and then to feed cattle, poultry, and pork. So we are net importers no matter what. So in that sense, the idea that Mexico has lost a lot of agricultural jobs, I think, is not supported by reality.